incredibly lukewarm. This is your National Symphony Orchestra of Ireland, like the Irish football team. Can you give them a massive round of applause? Yes! It's more like it. That's the sort of energy we're looking for. Can you keep it going for Ellie, our conductor? Yes. Very good. Can you also give maybe the biggest round of applause of all to Edward Hart at St. Patrick's Cathedral Grammar School? Yeah. I only got one shout out for this school, but you're all incredibly welcome. Welcome, latecomers scuttling in down the back. My name is Jessie, and we're of course here to do Berlioz Symphony Fantastique today. My goal is to bring this incredibly wild and weird piece of music to life with this world-class orchestra behind me, the sound of whom is reason enough for you to come today, without learning any of the facts that I'm going to throw at you. We're going to do key features, musical ideas, general nerdy facts. If you're the type of person that processing this stuff by writing it down helps, please make notes. If you're the type of person that's like, white noise, I can't process any of it, it's being recorded and it will be sent out to your teachers in due course. Teachers, maybe be patient, it might take a while, but it will get to you so you can kind of watch it on repeat and learn by osmosis. But I'm going to give you a load of facts. I believe students lose marks for being too vague. You cannot lose marks for being too nerdy, which is how I've gotten where I am in life. So really, I'm going to throw loads at you. Strap in. Bombarding you with facts. We're going to focus on instrumentation and theme, and then at the end we're going to listen to the fourth movement, which is what's up on the exam for you all the way through, without me getting in the way. But first, it's time to talk a little bit about the backstory, which in my opinion, this piece is one of the strangest and most vibrant orchestral pieces ever written. The first symphony that Berlioz ever attempted to write, and it goes on to change orchestral writing forever. What an achievement of his. It's a work of orchestration genius, but it stands out because Berlioz was an absolute weirdo. The backstory itself is what builds this whole piece. And even in the 1800s, I think Berlioz's behavior was a bit strange, but I think today we might call him an incel, and definitely a bit of a weirdo. So under the gentle music of the second movement, Un, I'm going to tell you the story of this weird masterpiece. So here we go. It's the year 1827. A 24-year-old Hector Berlioz goes to see Shakespeare's Hamlet at the Odeon Theatre in Paris. Berlioz is mad about Shakespeare. Playing the role of Ophelia in the play was brilliant Irish actor Harriet Smithson, and her emotional performance took the city by storm. 1800s, she went viral, and she became known as La Belle Irlandaise. Berlioz became obsessed, like problematically obsessed with Harriet Smithson. He stalked her in the street, he sent her countless letters, and he even moved in next door to her without her consent. He continued his creepy behavior for over 4 years, until in a dramatic last-ditch attempt to get her attention, he wrote a 90-minute long epic symphony that changed the world of music forever. As you do. and he put her at the very center of it. Harriet eventually did see a performance of Symphonie Fantastique 5 years later and did bizarrely agree to marry him. But then she kind of looked at him again and had second thoughts. So Berlioz did what any weirdo would do and took poison in front of her on the street in public and said, "If you don't marry me, I will die. If you say yes, I will take the antidote." So she was forced kind of to say yes and married him. The marriage predictably didn't last very long, but what has lasted is this amazingly colourful and innovative work, Symphonie Fantastique. This, of course, is the second movement of Symphonie Fantastique, where the artist on the story finds himself at a ball. Of course, at a ball in the 1800s, there's a lot of waltzing, so this is in 3/8 time, waltz time signature. You can hear the whirling and swirling of the dancers as they swish around the ballroom. The artist looks up from the dance, and across the ballroom he glimpses his true love. The world goes in slow motion. He's blindsided by how beautiful she is. Of course, this, as you know, is the idée fixe. And then she melts back into the crowd. Thank you very much. So, I had some pals come up the back if you came in a bit late. If you don't want to see the back of my head, my hair is nice from the back, but if you wanted to go over there, there's nobody sitting there if you wanted to scuttle over. Or you've now died in mortified shame because I've pointed you out. Either way, if you're happy there, you can stay there. So it's quite an intense story behind one of the greatest masterpieces of the Romantic era, written at a time when art and music exploded with feeling. There was no more neat classical symmetry and polite manners. Romantic artists painted storms and heartbreak, and poets wrote about the soul, and Berlioz turned emotion into sound. This piece is a brilliant example of so many elements of Romanticism, starting with the size of the orchestra. Pre-Berlioz, in the classical era, 1700s, the orchestra playing music by big names like Mozart and Haydn would have been made up of about 40 musicians, and it would have sounded like this. But Berlioz wanted a supersized orchestra to match the hugeness of its big man feelings, and he used all the modern instruments he could get his hands on. He asked in the second movement for not one but 2 harps. Oh, gorgeous. And he asked, at the back he wanted as much noise as possible. He asked for 2 timpani players. Not just one, normally there's one, but he goes for 2. And for the fourth movement, the one that we're going to focus on, he really went to town bulking up the brass. So he wrote for 2 ophicleides. These days it's played on the tuba. So let's have a listen. We're going to build up a lovely G minor chord with our tuba. So we have tuba 1 and tuba 2. He then asks for 3 trombones, a bass trombone, a second trombone, a first trombone. Dramatic as always, I love it. And then he asks, of course, for as normal. You can breathe when you want, don't pass out, lads. We get 2 trumpets. And then he wants a more kind of a military brass band sound. So he asks for 2 cornets, which are a little bit smaller. I'll get back to it. Love the power. Thank you, brass. Beautiful. So, compared to the classical era sound, which sounds like this, let's remember. We've got Berlioz's supersized orchestra sound that sounds like this. Yes. So as well as this gigantic orchestra, Symphonie fantastique is a cornerstone example of Romanticism. This is defo a question that comes up all the time. So let's delve into it really briefly. Romanticism. This piece has got program music. It tells a vivid story, the artist's opium dream of love and jealousy and murder and execution and witches and all sorts of nonsense. And each movement paints a scene. First movement, I'm obsessed with the beloved. Second movement, I go to a ball. There she is. Third movement, I'm going to go to the countryside. Oh, she's there again. Fourth movement, she's not going out with me, so I'm going to kill her. And then he gets executed for doing a murder. And then in the fifth movement, he's now dead, and he brings her with him in an unhinged witch's Sabbath. And now she's like an awful witch for not going out with him. Like it's not really a cool story. But throughout this, he uses an idée fixe, a musical obsession, a single melodic theme to represent her in every movement. So we've got program music. There's emotional and dynamic extremes in Romanticism all the time in this piece. We've got whisper soft quadruple pianos and gigantic triple fortes, it reflecting the kind of raw emotional turbulence of his ridiculous dramaticism. And then we have harmonic adventurousness and chromatic color. He does kind of weird modulations to unusual and distant keys, and we get chromaticism that would have really kind of upset a classical ear. And then he also is totally free with form and structure. Classical era was very strict, sonata form. A symphony would have 4 movements. Berlioz is like, I have 5. And he doesn't use the sonata form in the way that we would expect. He uses it to make drama instead of following rules. So, as I see it, the important stuff we need to cover really today is the context of the piece, how it's orchestrated, and the themes. So let's get into our themes. First one, idée fixe. The direct translation means a fixed idea or obsession. Another cool romantic thing that Berlioz did was he wrote his own program notes. Like everybody now writes the kind of album notes or whatever, for the story of what's behind their album. But Berlioz, that wasn't a thing that was done in Berlioz's day, but he went and he wrote his own thing, and he wrote dramatically, "The author imagine a young artist sees for the first time a woman who unites all the charms of the ideal person in his imagination he was dreaming of, and falls desperately in love with her. By a strange anomaly, the beloved image never presents itself to the artist's mind without being associated with a musical idea, in which he recognizes a certain quality of passion, but endowed with the nobility and shyness, which he credits to the object of his love. This melodic image and its model keep haunting him ceaselessly. This explains the constant recurrence of the melody in all movements of the symphony." In both movements, on the leaving cert that you guys are looking at, it's played, this idée fixe is played by the clarinet. So here it is again, I talked over it the first time a bit. In the second movement form, we're in 3/8, the waltz one, clarinet in A. It's accompanied by sustained flutes and horns with a sprinkling of harp quavers. It starts in D major and then modulates back to the tonic of the movement, A major. Beautiful. Now, in the fourth movement, yes, we have somebody mad for that. I love it. Somebody has fallen in love with the idée fixe. Thank you for that energy. In the fourth movement, we have just, get ready, whoever you are for this now. We just have, in the fourth movement, the idée fixe is just the C clarinet alone. C clarinet is tinier, the A clarinet's about this long, C clarinet's about this size, and so it makes a brighter, lighter sound. And Matt here is going to play on his complete Toblerone. We're in 2/2, split common time, G major. Quite hard to see on the score. It says dolce assai appassionato, played sweetly and passionately, as Matthew did. So it's nearly time for you guys to do some work. You've been sitting here comfortably. We are going to sing the idée fixe and really get it into our bones. But first, we're going to have a listen to its original form that can be found in the first movement. I know, it's not even on the syllabus, but it's really helpful to hear all of the strings and the flute play this and hear where this idée fixe came from originally. So it's long and meandering, and be just grateful that you don't have to memorize this for your exams. He writes a heartbeat. I love it. Can anyone with your amazing genius out here tell me what key that was in? Score is up there. I know you haven't studied this. Someone shout it out? No. We're in the first movement, my friend. G is a good answer, generally. Who said it? C major. H1 for you. Nice one. So this is actually a good top tip for my nerdy friends here. The idée fixe it always starts on the dominant. So the fifth of the scale, the first note of the idée fixe is always the dominant. The second note is always the tonic. So wherever you see it written down, either the second or the fourth movement, you can tell what key it's in by looking at the second note of the melody. Of course, it's also always in a major key, as my clever friend down here knows already. So let's hear the very first phrase, and we're going to sing it in a minute. Get psychologically prepared. So I've got a romantic version of this melody words and then a more practical academic one. We're going to do the first one. Can you all sing me that? G, la, la. That was incredibly lukewarm. Stand up on your feet there so we've got a bit more energy. We've got to use our instruments properly. La. Okay. Let me hear it again with passion. The passion of Berlioz. Here we go. La. Nice. Okay, so we're going to sing Harriet, I love you. Harriet, I love you. 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 Could we hear that? Can we play that with the fiddles and the flute? We'll all do it together. Here we go. We're going to sing it. Harriet, I love you, I love you, I love you. Beautiful. Okay, this one, my next line is going to give you some marks in your exam. It's a bit eggy, it doesn't really work. It's not going to win me a Mercury Prize. The second note tells me the key that the tune's in. That might stick in your head. It might come to you in a moment in the exam. Let's sing it together. Here we go. The second note tells me the key that the tune's in. You've got it. Give yourselves a round of applause and sit down. Very good. So, quick quiz, and you're not allowed to answer. Fourth movement. What instrument is the Idée fixe played on in the fourth movement? Clarinet. What kind of clarinet? Clarinet. Clarinet in C. Very good. Who's the music teacher for this school? You win. Nice one. Okay. I'm also deaf in one ear, so I can hear you and I can't hear you. So that's some general stuff. Helpful to know. Let's get stuck into the fourth movement now in detail and explore some of the specific themes and the amazingly colourful palette of instrumental techniques that Berlioz uses. Let's not forget that identifying instruments is one of the most common questions on the exam. So we've got, with these world-class players behind us, we have a chance to really get their sounds imprinted in our ear holes and in our brains. So the structure of the fourth movement is fairly straightforward, but nicely romantically rule-breaking. We start in G minor. We've got an introduction, two themes, which we'll hear in what you could classically call an exposition section. And then they're played around with and developed in the development. Yeah, nice. Just you alone again. Give me the answer. Nice one. So we've got an exposition and a development. And instead of a recap... Yes, some people have got it. Instead of a recapitulation, Berlioz hits us with the story instead. We don't get a recap. We get the Idée fixe and the guillotine and the head falling in the basket and all the gory stuff with G major celebrations, even though the piece started in G minor. So, themes. That's our structure. Almost sonata form, but not quite. Themes. Two themes. Scaffold, the fourth movement. Get it? We've got the Marche theme. And we have the descending theme. So I'm not going to ask us all to sing this because it's got a wild 2-octave range, and I certainly don't have that sort of range in this voice box. So we can sort of half sing and half chant it, and we can definitely clap it. So let's clap the rhythm of that descending theme. Are we ready? I'm going to count you in. I'm going to go 1, 2. Don't just clap randomly like we're in Nienra. Okay, here we go. So 1, 2, and da 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 da. Da. Okay, another Mercury Prize winning words I've got for this. It's going to go, I'll say it once. It goes descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. It's not beautiful, it's not poetry, but let's try it together, shall we? It's up on the board. Sorry if you can't see it, I'll make myself a bit small. Here we go. 1, 2, and descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. We've got a smattering of polymaths who are already clapping and saying at the same time. Can we do it all together? Let's clap and chant. Here we go. 1, 2, and descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. You guys are all excellent. Let's try it together with the orchestra. The timp are going to count us in style, and we're going to do it the first 4 times that we hear this descending theme. So you've got a chance to get it right. Here we go. And let's do it quite small at the start. Descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. Here we go. And descending 2 octaves. Repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. Timpani. Descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. Again, last time. Descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. Very, very good. You're getting away with it because you're behind me. I can't check up on you. But okay, so now we have it in our bones. Let's listen to it now. So we're not going to clap or chant along with it. We're going to listen to those 5 repetitions with the main theme. I've asked the front desks of the strings to only play the main theme so we can really focus on what's accompanying in each iteration. So here we go. I'm going to chat over a little bit. It's also nicely annotated up there for you as well. First time, monophonic. Just cellos and basses. And then we get an imperfect cadence. Bassoons and horns. Violas join with a harmony. They're a third above. And bassoons playing a dotted sequence. Timpani comes on in a B flat, the 5th of E flat major. Violins in E flat major. B flat chord. Nice. Exactly the same the 3rd time. We get this counter melody, staccato in the lower strings. This time we get a mini transition back into G minor. Triple stomps on the fiddles. And now this is amazing. Staccato, Baroque style bassoon counter melody. Upper strings are playing pizzicato in a complete inversion of the tune. The tune's down there still. Very much. So before we move on to the Marche theme, it's a good time to stop and look at some instrumental techniques that you can use in composition sections of your exam or just generally in your life. So in this piece, particularly in the strings, all over the score you see Italian words like arco, pizzicato and tremolo. So let's just hear that 5th iteration without the amazing bassoon moment. So they're playing pizzicato. Plucking the string with their fingers instead of playing with the bow. If it was marked arco, which literally means play with the bow, it would sound like this instead. Totally different texture. And if, for example, you see tremolo all over the place, if they played the last note of that tremolo, it would sound like this. It's basically wiggle your bow as fast as you can. It's quite a dramatic sound that you hear in a lot of film music as well. So, if this is... Oh, we've done staccato. No, we haven't done staccato, have we? Oh, yes, okay. So if they were asked to do staccato, so you'll see this all over the place as well, with dots on top. If they're asked to play staccato, it would sound like this with the bow. So it's like different paints in an artist's palette, all these different ways of making the same notes sound different. In the woodwind, staccato and legato makes a mega difference. It's time for my favourite bassoon section again. They're going to play, first of all, the staccato quaver style counter melody that we hear the 5th time the descending theme is played. It's rare to hear 4 professional bassoon players playing at the same time. It's amazing. Okay. If instead of writing the dots above, the composer does a big old slur, it would sound like this instead. Very good. So thank you for that nerdy tangent, everybody. Let's get back to business. And the Marche theme, which comes just after that bassoon and string pizzicato moment and is totally different in character, of course, to the descending theme. It's full of syncopation, dotted rhythms, and it's played on the wind and brass. And as a reminder, it sounds like this. I did an interactive show for kids with this piece, and I wrote words to it, and it's really catchy, and it'll stick in your brain forever. It goes like this. Come march with me, everybody likes to see a head get chopped off. Can we sing that together? Okay, here we go. 1, 2. Come march with me, everybody likes to see a head get chopped off. Can we sing it with a tiny bit more passion? That was a bit like... Okay, here we go. We're passionate. We're about to bring somebody to the gallows. 1, and... Come march with me. Yes, everybody likes to see a head get chopped off. Okay, that's not going to get you 1,000,000 marks in the Leaving Cert, so I've written a really complicated version, but there's so many facts in here. If you can remember it, it could be really helpful. And I've extended the second phrase as well, so it goes like this. Okay, here we go. B flat major, syncopated dotted rhythms in the Marche theme. It's played 4 times and ends with dotted downward scale-like patterns and a cadence. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you want to try it? Should we try it? You have permission to be terrible. It's fine. It's your first time. Okay. Let's do it with the orchestra for the laugh. Here we go. B flat major. 1, 2. B flat major, syncopated dotted rhythms in the Marche theme. It's played 4 times and ends with dotted downward scale-like patterns and a cadence. Smashed it, everybody. Excellent. Round of applause for that. Yes. I'm really feeling the romantic passion in the room today. I love it. So structure-wise, the Marche theme is definitely more simple compared to the descending theme. We hear it 4 times, and there's not much hugely contrasting in the accompaniment, which can also be tricky because you might be asked, is this the first and second time or the third and fourth time? So let's like zoom in and see the differences. So the first time, the theme finishes, of course, as you know, on an imperfect cadence on the 5, and the second time on a perfect cadence, 5-1. Oh, sorry, I have more to say, Ellie. She was about to go. Let's have a listen, but only the cornets are going to play the melody, and maybe even a little bit quieter than we did earlier. The cornet's going to play the melody, so you can really hear tubas, trombones, and timpani accompanying, and the strings, imperfect cadence, and their interjections, because they come in the second time with loads of semiquavers. Okay. Timps. We get an imperfect cadence for the strings. Second time. Little interjections and chromatics in the lower brass. Beautiful. We then get into a transition section with antiphonal call and response. That's a really good word to use, antiphonal, just means call and response. We get dialogue using the descending theme material. It's all chopped up. So we've heard the Marche theme 1 and 2, now we're going to get a transition. The rhythm from descending 2 octaves, with the strings now taking the timpani's sextuplets, my favourite word. Here it is, transition. Nice. And then a very satisfying and clever trick he does, where he takes the descending theme and he sort of throws it around like ping pong around the 3 different sections of the orchestra before the timpani interrupt and take their 6s back, their sextuplets back, and we lash into the Marche theme again for the 3rd and the 4th time. Here's that transition. similar to the first and second time, but these guys, this beautiful shoal of blue, are going mad instead. So the difference, third and fourth time, we've got arpeggio triplets and we've got these semiquavers. And similarly to the first and second time, the fourth time, we get that amazing chromatic bass line happening in the brass. So we're going to do the same thing again and get the melody to be a little bit quieter, and so we could really listen out to the accompaniment. So here is that third and fourth bit again, just so we can hear the accompaniment. Triplet arpeggios. They're chucking semiquavers at each other. Now here's the fourth time. Same triplets. Fourth time, chromatics at the back. Love it. So there's subtle differences, but they are easy to spot once you really are listening out for it. So now we're familiar with our two themes. Let's go back to the very beginning of the movement and hear how Berlioz sets this whole show up. Here is the introduction to the Marche to the Scaffold. My favorite is that boop, boop, boop that you just do there. It's really good. So it's really quite clever stuff. The introduction is sprinkled with these different elements that Berlioz is going to use later on in the piece. We have the sextuplets, the sixes, a minor third apart on the timpani, where Berlioz, again, it's really unusual. He asked two timp players to play, and he specifically writes, it's kind of hard to see on the screen there, that they play with soft, fluffy sticks, so it sounds really muffled, like a really distant drum marching band. Sounds like this, the timps. Nice. And then while that's happening, the bass and the cello are playing pizzicato. They're plucking, but it's written, and you can see it on the score. On the basses particularly, they've got like 4 notes at the same time. If they played it together, they'd have to strum it like a guitar. So he says div a 4. Thank you. He says divisi a 4. So they divide up the chord so that every note gets an actual player instead of guitar style. Here it is. So they're spelling out the G minor chord, and then we get syncopation that we heard in the actual Marche theme is now on the French horns. And allow me to go on a tiny nerdy tangent. We had a discussion yesterday afterwards, after the rehearsal with the principal horn player, because I want to note this little sentence that he has marked. It's quite hard to see, but fais le son bouché avec la main sans employer le cylindre. What on earth does that mean? Anyone speak French? Basically means change the notes using your lips and your hand inside the bell instead of using the valves. So we could go into a big chat about the history of the French horn, but we don't really have time for that. And the short version, long story short, is that it makes a kind of a muffled sound. It's really hard to play the French horn using just a hand inside the bell. It would take ages to talk about, and it often is really out of tune. Today, different conductors and different players agree to do different things, but we often get a muted sound that's usually played with a mute, right, lads? Yeah? Cool. So let's have a listen to that. Would you mind standing up so we can actually see your beautiful curly-whirly instruments? So if it was played without the mute, open, it would sound like this. So they still have their hand in the bell, but they're not blocking the end of the bell. And can we just have the first bar you play with the mute? So we just hear that difference. So again, he's looking for this sort of, thank you very much, French horns. He's looking for that kind of like far away, distant marching, because we've got a long way to go till we get to the scaffold. So he's using all of these really clever colours to paint a picture and tell a story. So we've got timpani, pizzicato, syncopated horns, And then the intensity builds, the clarinets and the bassoons join, followed by the trombones and the tubas. We get a molto crescendo, and bam, first big G minor chord telling us where we are. Okay, here it is. Here's the crescendo into B. Yes. So in a jumbled way, we've just done the intro. We've covered half the piece, but let's now put it in the correct order and hear it from the beginning of the fourth iteration of the March theme. And I'll do a little bit of commentary. No, we're going to hear it from the introduction. Sorry, I'm going to do some commentary all the way. It's going to be up on the big screen so you can follow along. And please, if you fancy it, join in with me with the silly words that I did. So it was descending 2 octaves with repeated rhythms. We hear this theme at first 5 times. Oh, it's lukewarm. And then can we try "Come March with Me"? Here we go. Come march with me. Everybody likes to see a head get chopped off. I don't know, is it because I'm deaf, or are you just amazing front row? Because I can really hear you. Thank you very much. Okay, so here's the full exposition. We're going to go from bar 1 to 104. Timpani sextuplets. Syncopated horns. Pizzicato G minor. Bassoons have joined in. Clarinets are joining. Here come the trombones and the tuba. G minor. Monophonic descending theme. Bassoons and violas are going to make us do an imperfect cadence. Now violas go in harmony. And bassoons are doing a dotted counter melody sequence. This, of course, is now a polyphonic texture. Timp brings a B flat, 5th of E flat major. Violins play this higher up. Counter melody, staccato in the lower strings. It's a lovely B flat chord. Same as before, this is the 4th time we hear it. But the end of the 4th time, we're going to get syncopated woodwinds and some triple stops. Now, Baroque bassoons. Descending theme is in the bass. These guys are doing it backwards, inverted. Backwards. That's the 4th time. 5th time. Now your crescendo into the march. March with me. Everybody likes to see a head get chopped off. Imperfect cadence. Come march with me. Everybody likes to see a head get chopped off. String interjection. Chromatics. Perfect cadence. Transition 1. Antiphony. Descending theme spread out. Here come the timpani to interrupt. 3rd time. Triplets, semiquavers. Syncopated chords there. 4th time. Chromatic bass line. Perfect cadence. Nice. Lovely solo there on the horn. So, we are on the home stretch now, everybody. So with the descending and the march themes have had their main moments. We've got technically 37% of music to go. We're going to get a second transition 2, and that's going to go into the development where Berlioz throws the themes around a bit, and we hear, of course, the beloved Idée fixe and the fun head chopping off bit at the end. So we've heard the march theme 4 times. And then we're going to hear that same transitional music, and I'm seeing worried faces. But Jessie, how am I going to tell the difference between transition 1 and transition 2, right? Don't worry, I'm here to help. It's almost identical. We've got some timpani are adding in antiphonal dialogue, and instead of antiphonal dialogue, they're barging in with sextuplets. They did the first time. We're going to get a bar of descending triplet crotches in the winds and the strings, and that's going to set us up for our final build-up. I'll talk over it. Here, let's hear the second transition and hear the piece play on into the development. Wind and brass dialogue. They've got the timp sixes. Here's the second transition. Sequences. So much drama in this development section that we've just heard. First of all, we've a shed load of sequences. The strings have repeated crotchets with a rising grace note that rise one step per bar, and it's really dramatic just on its own, but then he builds on top of it. Let's hear the strings on their own, rising sequences. For my magic person who's backstage on the slides, we should be at bar 114. See my magic power. Yes! Meanwhile, the upper winds have taken these timpani sextuplets, and they're also playing different rising sequences. Sounds like this, really hard to play. Brilliant. And all of that noise is underneath bassoons, trombones and tubas, who have the first 2 bars of the descending theme, but now in an ascending looped sequence. Amazing. So this from here, letter L, is going to lead us to the climax of the whole piece and the loudest iteration of the full descending theme for the 6th and final time, with almost everybody in the orchestra is playing except the rolling and roaring timpani, who have now been asked to switch from their fluffy sticks to baguette de bois, wooden sticks, to make a really hard and noisy sound. We get an offbeat bass drum, massive cymbal crashes, and the strings are scrubbing away on a tremolo, getting really tired arms. So let's hear that whole bit again. We're going to pick up as transition 2 crashes into the climax and the fortissimo descending theme. Here we go. Then a complete inversion of the descending theme. And then monophonic unison staccato strings. And all of this helps us to start to modulate back to G minor. Beautiful. And we've arrived at the coda. So that's going to be letter O is our coda. Shall we hear a little bit of it? We've the strings in this coda playing this relentless dotted motif, and the dotted element of course comes from the march theme, but the melodic shape actually comes from the accompaniment to the descending theme from way back. Check it out. So here's what the violins would sound like if they weren't playing it dotted. Strings. And then at bar 51, if we go back all the way back to bar 51 of the piece, we're going to compare that with the bassoon accompaniment of the fifth iteration of the descending theme. Here's bar 51. So it's the same shape. He may have been a stalker and a weirdo, but Berlioz was a pretty good composer and pretty clever. The coda then gets increasing tension with repeated dotted notes interrupted by those violent, crashing 5/1 cadences. Interestingly, the repeated dotted motifs also originate from the bassoons. Berlioz was big on the bassoon accompaniment. So they've taken the repeated dotted thing from the second time the bassoons accompany the theme. Remember, it sounded like this. And then we're going to jump to bar 141 to compare. That's the origin of the wind and brass in the coda using this dotted rhythm. So after all the dotted business, we get a monophonic moment of unison strings before, again, antiphonal dialogue, back and forth, where the wind and brass are going to bash out a D flat major and the strings are going to play G minor. So here's that romantic idea of wildly contrasting harmonies being thrown around the world. And the questions and answers are going to get shorter and shorter before a big old dominant 5 D major chord, tumbling triplets into G minor, and then another dominant 5 chord. And instead of G minor, we end up with the Idée fixe. So here's that D major chord. Berlioz is being so harmonically clever here. He's telling a story with harmony. We imagine that we want to go to G minor in our ears now. A 5/1 resolution. But instead he's on the D major, and then out of there, the clarinet appears with the Idée fixe melody, and we think G minor, right? It's G major because he's got B natural. Nice. And of course, guillotine, head chops off, rolling into the basket. So that G major is that love and optimism when we really were expecting a G minor. So Berlioz was so keen on this head chopping off effect, he actually asked the cymbals and the bass drum to muffle their sound. Let's just hear that, what it would sound like if the timp and the bass drum and cymbals don't muffle. It's covering that blum, blum, a head literally gruesomely falling into a basket. Instead, with the muffling, it sounds like this. Yes. So then we get a drum roll, triumphant G major fanfare as the crowd cheers the beheading of the artist. So here's the head chopping off celebration. Jubilant G major. I'm going to get out of the way and stop talking now and invite you to sit back and absorb it all as the NSOI players play you the whole movement and see if anything that I've said sticks in your brain or becomes any clearer or not. Before I go, I want you to give a massive national round of applause to the National Symphony Orchestra Ireland. Thank you very much. Can we have a separate and wonderful round of applause for Ellie Slorach? Nice one. So My name is Jessie, and I wanted to say, please remember that we play music. Please find ways to find joy in your music and in your life. Exams are important, but your mental health is more important. We absorb more information when we're happy and joyful and calm. So keep leaning into that when you study. Advice you didn't ask for, but I need reminding. Maybe put your phone down, go outside, hang out with your pals in real life, and play music for the fun of it, not for the marks and to get it right. So, yeah, for wisdom. Thank you. I'm going to go away. Here's the fourth movement of Berlioz Symphonie Fantastique. Thank you for being a lovely audience. Bye.